Hello and welcome to the debrief, where the show where we take a look and see what the Hammers Chat subscribers are saying about yesterday's game, a 5-0 hiding by Liverpool. I was just been reading the comments of people in the review from yesterday's game. Understandably, not very good. A lot of frustration, a lot of anger. And most disappointingly, most worrying, a lot of people just numb, giving up a little bit. Anyway, we're going to see what people are saying in the live chat, and we're going to kick us off with Simon. So if you're watching live, get your comments into live chat. If you're watching it later on during the day or tomorrow, get your comments into the comment section, and we'll see what you're all saying. Simon says, not just the expected result and scoreline, another dire performance, incoherent tactics, team selection and substitutions. This has been characteristic under Lopetegui. No identity, drags on. Randy says, Sullivan is still refusing to admit his mistake by appointing Lopetegui and putting it right. And now fans have had enough of the season and the tension is very high. Doghouse says Lopetegui hasn't a clue about what it takes to survive in the Premier League. There is no joy on the faces of our players, which means they are confused as to what they are asked to do. Mark goes on to say, I wouldn't say Nottingham Forest have better players than us, but they're well coached, play in the correct positions, and as a team with clear instructions. So Nuno is getting the best out of them. They're not doing too shabby, are they? You almost, as a neutral, you keep expecting Forest to stop winning. Don't know why, just because it's Forest, I guess. But when I watch them, they are very impressive, and a very impressive result, an underrated result yesterday, I think, away to Everton. And I hope they do it. I hope they get a European place. I like seeing clubs disrupt the normal top six of the Premier League. Steve says, what does it say about us when the majority of fans predict a hiding? And that's exactly what happens. I'm sick of Lopetegui. I'm sick of the players' attitude. And above all, I'm sick of David Sullivan. Keep your comments coming in. Stuart saying it's just the same old West Ham. Owen saying that Lopetegui has to go. Randy saying, must point out that Sullivan's stubbornness to not admit his wrongdoing is going to cost us Premier League status if he does not act now and start acting like a chairman who supposedly wants the best for us. James saying Lopetegui put Wan-Bissaka on the left-hand side to deal with Salah, then leaves him high up the pitch. Laughable. Response said, I'm starting to feel that natural law of the universe states that as soon as West Ham wins something, we must go through years of purgatory to readdress the natural balance of the universe. A little bit of humour. I like it. I think sometimes it's the best way of coping, really, isn't it? Adrian said a ticket to the game yesterday would have been the main Christmas present to some of those. Must have been on the naughty list. I think it's mainly Liverpool fans, to be honest with you. I've seen... there was always going to be, there's always going to be Liverpool fans in the home end yesterday. It happens with most games, but when there's a big club, I think it happens more. And I think sometimes, as much as I want to see the club sort it out, I think it's quite difficult because when West Ham season ticket holders put their ticket on the ticket exchange, you can go on there, create an account and buy it from the website, and the club don't know who that person supports, so on and so forth. But the more worrying thing was, I've seen people claiming they were able to get into the ground yesterday using last season's ticket. Now, whether it's true or whether it's like a post for social media, I don't know. But if it is true, that's worrying as well. It would almost be quite West Ham that you can actually just use last season's ticket to scan it and get in. Melbourne Hammer saying the longer it goes on, the more incompetent Sullivan looks. Unless he has a clause in his contract by which they can get out of the contract cheaper if he doesn't hit certain targets. The thing is, if that was true, I hoped it was. But the reason I don't believe it's true, Melbourne, is because I think we would have known about it. So let's just say, in theory, there's a clause that if Lopetegui finishes in the bottom half of the Premier League table in May, they can sack him with no compensation. Let's just say that was one of the clauses. I think it would have been leaked by now in order to say to West Ham fans, look, we are writing off the season. We don't think we're going to get relegated. We don't think we're going to finish in top half. We're going to be 13th, 14th, whatever. However, if that is the case, we can then dismiss Lopetegui with no compensation due. I think that news would get leaked in order just to inform fans, because like I said, I think Sullivan, sometimes he does go to ground, but usually Sullivan, he is quite chatty. We had an update from him via other people regarding Lopetegui not getting sacked after the defeat to Liverpool. So he is currently in communication with West Ham fans about the Lopetegui situation today. So I think if there was a clause, I think it would be out there personally. Ross says we are awful. We've been so lucky to get the results we've got this season. Utter toilet. The Russian golem is spineless. James says, let me guess, City and Villa will be considered acceptable losses to Sullivan. We'll scrape a draw against a good Fulham side and the cycle continues. Nick says, we had a massive opportunity to push on after the Conference League win, but no, this is what we do. Whenever we have a good season, instead of kicking on, we sit back and live off it. For example, 1986. Dylan says, no need for the question mark, Gio. It's a statement, not a question. In the thumbnail, I put Sack Lopetegui with a question mark. It is a question mark. I'm asking the question. And not everybody would sack him. I think most would, but not everybody. From what I've read. Butcher says it's a waste of a season, struggling to be arsed, knowing it's all for nothing. Hugo is saying Sufal was at fault for 2 goals. Dylan said, in regards to feeling numb, I've never cared less about a sports team I supported than last night. The highlight of the game last night was getting the score prediction right with my Liverpool mate. Randy said, I think all fans feel like we feel cheated and lied to, not getting a return of entertainment or at the very least hope or enjoyment. And I do wonder if fans are going to renew next season or not. I think a lot of people are prepared to walk away more than ever at the minute, personally. Just the vibe I'm getting. Luke, I assume it's Luke from West Ham World YouTube channel, says, would you take Scott Parker? 52 win percent at Burnley, 3rd in league, and a bit of a cult hero at the club. Plays attacking football. He got the club as a player 3 times how many years, Tottenham mistake aside. The thing is, I understand why he went to Tottenham. I know it's not great to go in there, but I sort of get it. But no, I wouldn't take Scott Parker. I have my reasons, and without turning this into a 10-minute Scott Parker debate, my answer is no. The thing is, with a swapping for Lopetegui, probably, but there's not many managers I'd say no to in that regards. Ian said, after sleeping on it, I'm still seething. Grow a pair silly. Lopetegui must go. Tactically inept. Every player has regressed. Paul said, I didn't care about the result. Knew what was coming. I actually found it funny. The poison dwarf doesn't care about the club. All he sees is money. Carl says, I just can't accept as a successful businessman why Sullivan doesn't recognise the value in employing the best coach available, even if that costs money. A more successful team will finish higher in the league. Jackie says, at this point, I think Lopetegui is a calculated move to make fans lose interest and passion. Chris says, makes him sick that Sullivan is holding off sacking him. I'm not Potter's biggest fan, but if he is ready and waiting, there's no reason to keep Lopetegui on. Sullivan needs to swallow his pride. Bitch said, I knew we were going to lose, but it's a manner of the defeat. Brings our best defender on at halftime when we're losing every week. Expect Boyd to hold the ball up against Van Dijk. It's an absolute joke. And Colin would say, I don't remember a season when it's felt dead before New Year. For me, Kerbishley, but that's a Geo thing. I realise it's Geo. There have been people that have agreed with me, or some of our guys would say, yeah, that season was crap for them as well. Avram Grant's season too. You knew we were relegated before the new year, but the Kerbishley season, I was just bored. I just remember that was the season I struggled to watch every game. It would come around to like a Saturday and people say, oh, do you want to do this instead? And and it wasn't as easy to watch games back then as it is now. It's 10 times easier to watch matches now than it was under Kerbishley. Just time. Remember I'm sure one website was called IraqiGoals.com. I am 90% sure that was a website because it's in my head. IraqiGoals.com. I'm pretty sure that's where I had to watch a lot of the West Ham games back then. I wonder if that website's still going. Probably not. Anyway, Ricky said yesterday it was like watching a very bad Christmas movie, but you keep watching until the end, just hoping it gets better. But deep down, you know it won't. Colin says, can't believe for such a seasoned manager has been so poor from the get-go. Luckily, we have enough classy players to scrape wins when needed. Gary said up from 40% overall possession of last season to 46.8%. Thought that's what a percentage of fans wanted. I'm not getting involved. I don't like the whole digging between fans, I just find it a bit, I don't know. When West Ham, it was both. Sometimes we're doing well, and fans will dig out other fans, and sometimes we're doing bad, fans dig out other fans. I just think it's a bit classless. Like being able to failing to respect other fans' opinions, I think is quite low. Personally, it's not really for me. I don't get it. I don't get why we get beat 5-0 by Liverpool, and your one thought is I must dig out fans that have a different opinion to me. I don't know. I just find it a bit strange. It's just something I don't understand. I'm sorry, Gary. I just don't get it. I don't get digging out other people for not having the same opinion as you. Mr. P said, I see absolutely nothing on the pitch that signifies that there's a plan for the football we play. We don't even have a plan for our corners any longer. We're an absolute nothing team. John says, sorry, he has to go now. Has shown nothing all season. How fans are expected to care anymore when they've written off the season already? Be it Chelsea, Arsenal, and now Liverpool had it enough. Gary saying we might get relegated. Hedgie says the manager needs to go. This team is better than it's showing. Graham says 3.5 hours travelling to watch that absolute shower. Manager has no idea, needs to go instantly. I think a lot of people are not going anymore. I haven't been for a while. I don't really say what game did I go to last. Man United, I think. I don't know. I've only been 3 times this season, so I've not been to many. Which I think is fairly understandable given my situation at the minute. But and because of said situation, I don't know when my next one will be. It's not going to be anytime soon. But I don't miss it. In previous seasons, when I haven't been for a couple of games in a couple of weeks, I start to get a little bit itchy feet and think, oh no, I want to be there. And I have fear of missing out. In previous seasons, I have fear of missing out. Not this season. Don't really have that vibe at the minute. And I think there's 2 elements to it. One is the actual match, and the other one is the experience around it. Like, if I went to a game 2 seasons ago, there'd be maybe 20 of us. When we first moved to London Stadium, there's maybe 30 of us that used to go every single match, and nearly every single match, but there'd always be 20, 25 of us there in a group before and after the game. Now, 3, 4, 5 people remain out of the 25 people. They've just given up. And it's not just Lopetegui. There's a London Stadium element to it as well. And a life element to it. People's situations have changed, but the matchday experience, and this has got nothing to do with Lopetegui, but the matchday experience has got worse for me, but also it's in the aspects of the matchday experience which can be improved regardless of which of my friends are attending hasn't improved. So like the search point, for example, that's got nothing to do with who's going or who the manager is, and it hasn't got any worse. It's just not improved. So the matchday experience for me is not as enjoyable as it used to be. The football isn't as enjoyable, and I don't have a fear of missing out anymore. If anything, there's some games like yesterday, a part of me thinks I'm so glad I didn't go. I'm so glad. So when Graham speaks about 3.5 hours traveling, I assume that's a round trip. For me, most games would involve an overnight stay because of public transport. It's money, it's time, it's effort, it's everything. When you take everything into consideration, it is difficult to want to go to games. I completely understand if people like Graham say no, thank you. I'm not gonna bother for a little while. John said if we had a system and be unlucky, I could take that, but we don't seem to have a system in place, and we've been very lucky to get the 23 points so far. Andy said it's time to go, but Sullivan is a problem at the club. Robin wants to see him sacked. Nick says, I love your content, Gio. Gons as well. But Satsu says, I only watch now because it's you. I simply don't care about West Ham anymore and doesn't even pay me. Well, that's sad, Nick. I generally dislike people that feel like that. I get it. I do get it. I just think football should be an escape from life and a nugget of an enjoyment. And when it's not that anymore, that's when it gets it's sad. You want something that distracts you from reality. Tom went to the game last night. He's over from Australia. I'm glad that match isn't the only reason I'm over here. Utter rubbish. Not a good game for my son's first Premier League match. Yeah, poor lad. Well, he might know that this is West Ham, I suppose. Mark says our midfield isn't quick enough to press, and nor is Fulkrug if he plays bad. He said he's not had a season ticket since Moyes and won't be renewing until we're doing well with no poor manager. Paul says half the season gone and we conceded 3 or more in a third of those games. Yeah, 8 games now. We conceded 3. Mitch saying, didn't I want Francesca? No, I didn't not want him. I don't know enough about him. My opinion on Francesca is non-existent, really. I don't know enough about him. Caveman says, I don't care about entertainment. I want to see our players fight for the badge. Entertainment is a bonus. AS has a feeling we're going to beat Man City. Oh, I hope you're correct. West Iron said I predicted 3-0 to Liverpool to my friend who supports them. He was just glad his own team didn't score more. He was glad Liverpool didn't score more. Steve 50 says Sullivan has already come out and said Lopetegui won't be sacked, but the next 2 games are critical as he's under a lot of pressure. I'm sure we've heard that somewhere before. Cockney Boy says only time will sit up and take notices for the loyal fans to consider boycotting, whether it be attending games or merchandise. 42 years of season ticket holder and very close to being done. Zaim says now is the ideal time to sack Lopetegui. January transfer window coming up and half a season to go. Go get Paolo Francesca. John says the potential is there to build a team and a franchise. It baffles me why he's not taken up. The negativity of some players, manager, and board is breeding into the fan base. Finn says why are fans so blinkered into Carrick, completely unproven. Done nothing of note of mid as well. I think they play some decent football, to be fair. I wouldn't mind Carrick. I think I don't know enough, but I've seen Middlesbrough a bit in the last 2 seasons now, and I like how they play. I do like. I enjoy tuning into them. Not quite as good as Ipswich under McKenna last season or that, but I do enjoy it. So I understand why. I'd rather have Carrick than Parker, for example. Kimbo said, football used to be a passion for me, but now looking at other things to do at weekends and it breaks their heart. Ian says, looking at fixtures left, we can easily get sucked into the bottom 3. Someone else is digging out the fans, so I'm not going to click on that one. Crow says, Sullivan has to go for anything to change. Lopetegui should have been sacked already. The players don't seem interested. We've got individual players, not a team. Mark thinks fans need to put some effort in at the games into removing Sullivan before even worrying about who the manager is. It's all well and good wanting Lopetegui out, but the same man who appointed him will. But that's the last part's true. I think there's only so much you can do. I don't think Sullivan cares. I think in order to, for this whole, it was the same with the boycotting thing and stuff like that. Like, it only works if you believe Sullivan cares, and if you think Sullivan doesn't care, then I struggle to believe that you believe a boycott. I'm not talking about you necessarily, Mark, but just a boycott would work. I don't think Sullivan cares about what fans think. So therefore, I struggle to believe that a boycott of anything would upset him or make him remotely worried. Remember, that stadium is, I don't know what the percentage is these days. Is it 85% maybe? 85% of the attendance every week is season ticket holders. So he's already got 85% of the gate receipts. Part of that 15% is the away fans. They get that money every week. And then the rest, which is match day tickets, we sell out every week. There's a demand every week. It might not be West Ham fans, but you have to remember, let's just say West Ham fans decided for this game we're going to boycott, we're not going to turn up. A lot of people will still put their tickets on Ticket Exchange. I see the debate once over on the Patreon Addicts chat because someone said, I'm not going, so I'm putting my ticket on the ticket exchange. And it was their way of saying, I'm staying away. But other people said, well, you're defeating the purpose still because someone else is going to take your tickets and go. So the seats are still going to be fulfilled. But I can understand both points because, well, that person's paid their money. Financially, they're going to miss out by not attending the game because Sullivan's already got the money. So it's a difficult one. I just don't see anything changing. I don't think Sullivan cares enough. I don't think he cares enough. George says the ground was full of unfamiliar faces last night. A lot of people are giving more games a miss. It feels like I completely agree. There'll be a lot of Liverpool fans at the game last night. A lot of people go just for a Premier League match and stuff like that. And we've all done it. We've all gone abroad and attended a football match in that country when you perhaps don't have an affiliation, or you might prefer that team. Like if you go to Italy, you might have a preferred Italian team, but to say you support them, I think might be a push, but you'll still attend an Italian fixture, won't you? I think most people do. I've certainly done it in the past, and I'll do it in the future too. I'll be a tourist at games in other countries. And I think that's what we've got at West Ham at the minute, where it's just people, West Ham fans are choosing not to go for various different reasons, and other people are saying, well, I'll have your ticket and I'll go. Thank you very much. Gary said he wasn't digging out West Ham fans. It's a genuine question. Those who wanted more possession are still whinging. It's coming across as unreasonable. I disagree. I can only speak for myself. I don't think I've ever said more possession. I could be wrong. I'm not saying I've never said it, as in what do I want to see in terms of football. I've always said more entertaining football because I think you can have less possession and be entertaining. I think you can have... There was times, and listen, one of my favourite seasons ever was 2020-21 under David Moyes when... Let me just skip to the end of chat. When we were playing counter-attacking football, the Jesse Lingard season, that one as well. That was 21-22, weren't it? I don't know. I always struggle with time. I always need examples. So 2020, we signed Bourne and Souček. So 21 is when we signed... Yeah, 2021, that season. That's when we got Lingard on loan. That season was one of my favourite seasons as a West Ham fan. I thought the football was really good. I enjoyed the football, but we didn't have loads of possession. We had low possession in a lot of games, but we were scoring 3 goals in some of them. You know, Slaven Bilic, I don't know what the possession was in the last season at Upton Park. I'd be surprised if it was over 50%. But I loved it. I absolutely loved the football we played. We were shipping goals, don't get me wrong, but that's what I consider to be entertaining. It's not necessarily possession. It's chances created. It's believing that we can score at least 2 goals in a game. That, to me, is what I want from a West Ham team. So that when we go to play Liverpool, like yesterday, or we're playing Man City this weekend, perfect example, I can go Man City where I can go, right, well, we're definitely going to score at least 1. We might score 2. It's just a case of, is that enough then to get us something? Could that get us 3 points? That's what I want from a West Ham team, going into games believing we can score at least a couple of goals, whether that's with 35% possession, 55% or 75%. I'd prefer more possession, but it's not my priority. So maybe I probably am in the whingy category for you, Gary, which is I want to change, but I didn't want Lopetegui. But I don't believe that the options had to be Moyes or Lopetegui in the summer. And if I knew that was the options, I would have changed my mind. I just didn't think... I knew Sullivan was the one in charge, and I didn't believe he'd get the best one for the job. But I was naive enough to think that he wouldn't go for the absolute cheapest and easiest option. I thought it would be one of the cheapest and easiest options, but I didn't think it would be the cheapest. That's why the Conference League season was when... Come January, February, can't remember the exact time. That's when, during the World Cup, I wanted us to sack Moyes and replace him. But January, February, I changed back. I was a flip-flop. I changed my opinion. And the reason being is, as I was saying, in life, when you get new data, reevaluate. And I think it's... I always respect someone that's willing to, A, change their mind, and B, admit they're wrong. I think those two things are quite a strong thing as a character. But January, February time, I remember changing my mind, saying, do you know what? I want to keep David Moyes. And the reason being was because it came out that the alternative was Rafa Benitez, and the choice was sack Moyes and hire Rafa Benitez or keep Moyes. And that's when I went, you know what? I think I'll stick with David Moyes, because the next guy was going to come in and he would have been told to keep us up and win the Conference League. That would have been the two requirements for the new manager. And I believe Moyes could have done that. I was correct. Moyes did do that. We did survive and did win the cup. I didn't enjoy the football, and I wanted him to go post-Conference League final. I thought that would have been a nice time to part ways. But the choice was Rafa or Moyes. And early in the summer, May, we hired him in May. It wasn't even like we were running out of time before pre-season. The season hadn't even finished yet. I don't believe the options should have been or had to be David Moyes staying or hiring Lopetegui. And that's why I struggle a bit when I say, well, this is what people wanted. It's not really. I don't think people wanted Lopetegui. I don't think the option should have been. I think it's a failure of the board that the option was Lopetegui or David Moyes. That is where the real failure is, in my opinion. Anyway, sorry for ranting, Gary. Entertainment is how, and it's difficult to say what entertainment is. Better football. What is better football? For a lot of people, it is percentage of possession. You're possibly correct there. But if that's what they want, I don't know. I just don't like digging people out saying, well, this is what you wanted. They're allowed to want more possession, but win games and have tactics, have some sort of system you can look at and go, yeah, I can see what the manager's trying to do there. Anyway, rant your way. Lee Rooster says Kudus in the centre would be a dream behind the striker and central. Last player I saw with pace playing central was Lingard. You don't even need pace. There was times Fernandes did that role quite well, I thought, and he wasn't quick. He was just direct. Lingard was pretty quick, to be fair, but direct, to just turn, get the ball and run. And I think having that ability to be direct is quite an unappreciated skill, if you like. Nick said, well, grown men on the pitch last night who looked afraid. That is completely and utterly unacceptable. Chris said, I noticed David Sullivan Jr. was there last night, but he has stated he doesn't really want to be in football. Jack has become a good businessman in his own way away from West Ham. Neither want it. I still think Jack will eventually become a owner in football. I don't think it'll be West Ham United. I think it'll be a lower league club, but I think it's just an opinion. I think Jack Sullivan will eventually become a chairman in football somewhere, and I don't think it'd be the worst one either. I don't know David. I spoke to him a few times years ago, and I've not spoke to him since. For the reasons Chris said, he doesn't really want to be in football. But Jack's a bit different. Jack's always had a big interest in West Ham, and he's right. Chris is right. He's doing things away from football and doing his own thing. Yeah, I think Jack will do all right. I do like Jack. Nick says it's a shame Sullivan doesn't see what we see. He only sees results. The 4 results before that, 8 points in 4 games. That is improvement, and we all know playing Liverpool, his job wasn't under threat. Mark said, I can't see us making any significant signings in January if last season is anything to go by. Hammer saying, don't forget to like the video. Thank you, Hammer Crow. Please do drop a like on the video by clicking thumbs up. Helps us out. Chris is saying Kudus has to play central to give us pace, power, composure on the ball, and energy. Every one of them midfielders are substandard. Even Irving was more mobile. The recruitment have stunk the place out. I can't really disagree with that one. Nick said he would take Ange Postecoglou if he gets the boot from Spurs. Happily put up with being inconsistent in the league if the trade-off was potentially becoming a good cup side. Anyone else agree? I think a lot of people would agree what you're suggesting there. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you for the £10 super chat. Guys says, if anyone thinks they will sack Lopetegui, there's no chance. He didn't get sacked after being humiliated against Leicester, so there's no set of circumstances he'll get sacked. We're stuck with him. I think you're correct for now. I think there is the potential he gets sacked eventually. But I agree. I don't think he'll be getting sacked this week. He'll be in charge for the Man City game. I'm very confident. But thank you very much, guys, your support. Very kind of you. Barry said, "Want to hammer him, and now Man U think he's making him worse. Talk about giving him a bad name because their club kills managers like cancer. We should have had him instead." Rooster saying, "Would I get rid of Tim Steidten?" I think I'd make a decision on Tim Steidten one way or another. I think the difference is, I think Steiden's been what I expected. I think it's funny. No, I'm not going to get into it. Back to Tim Steidten. He's someone I think that's made mistakes at West Ham. But I think we need to make a decision in the sense of, are we backing him or are we backing Lopetegui? I'm not sure you can do both because there's definitely been a failure. I don't think he's assembled the right squad for Lopetegui. So is it because he's not good enough to do that? As in, he didn't identify what Lopetegui needs and he's failed? Or did he just go buy certain players regardless of what Lopetegui needs? It's one of the two, because what he didn't do is identify what Lopetegui needs and went and got those exact players that Lopetegui requires. So I think he's either built his own squad regardless of who's in charge, or he's misunderstood how Lopetegui plays football. Now, having seen what we've seen at West Ham, you could suggest, well, how does Lopetegui play football? Because we don't know. After 7 months in charge, we're not too sure. So how's he meant to know? But I think there's one or two signings which are Lopetegui signings, and Max Kilman obviously being the biggest one. And I think he's done all right. I think Kilman's done okay. I still think he's overpriced at 40 million, but I think he's had a decent season at West Ham. So there's been, a failure from Tim Steidten. But I think what you can't do is go halfway. I think with anyone in charge of a squad recruitment, I think the worst thing Sullivan can do now is to retain Tim Steidten, but then take charge of the transfer window himself. I think you do one of the two. You either continue to back Tim Steidten and say you've got X amount of million to spend, away you go, or you take charge and dismiss him. I think what you don't do is keep him at the club, but undermine him, because that's just not going to help anybody. And we know that Tim has sources in the media. I think my personal opinion is he gets on very well with Fabrizio Romano and he gets on very well with Florian Plettenberg. And the last thing we need is things coming out about the club from Tim Steidten as well. It's already been a bit murky, and I've been surprised how quiet it's been recently, and I've been pleased how quiet it's been recently, that it's not been this slagging war, because that Spanish journal of Lopetegui has piped up a couple of times after we won. It made a list of reasons as to why we should back Lopetegui, and it's basically like, he just needs to improve the defence, improve the attack, improve the midfield. He basically suggests we need to improve everything, and eventually Lopetegui will be a good manager. But anyway, Spanish journal is already a little bit like that. I think Tim can be, Sullivan can be. I've been almost surprised at how quiet it's been over the last month or two, when at the start of the season, I thought it was getting a little bit political. So listen, I think in January you either back Tim Steidten and hope he comes good, or you dismiss Tim Steidten. I think what you don't do is keep Tim Steidten, but Sullivan and Lopetegui go and do their own thing in the transfer window. Anyway, Osbedience says Sullivan is so weak, is looking weaker and weaker by the day. He keeps using his mouthpieces to say Lopetegui's on his last chance and then not acting. Lopetegui is laughing at him. To be fair, his last chance was Wolves and he won that game. Nick says, if only our players and managers just played a fraction of the bravery that Big Ludo is showing in his... I agree with that. That's why there was only so much anger I could have yesterday. When you watch a bloke come onto the pitch and essentially wave goodbye, and I don't mean as in he's leaving the club. I mean, he's going to pass away at some point soon. Sad. Like you're saying, Tim didn't buy all the players. Lopetegui, Sullivan, and Tim bought all the players. There's zero cohesion in the strand. That's kind of what I was trying to say. Chris saying I called out Tim when we first signed him. Good insight. I didn't mean to click on that one. Let me get away from that. That's the conversation I'm trying to avoid. And Crow says having Steidten is pointless. Sullivan won't give up control. Rooster said you look at the players Steidten has brought in Tadibo, Fulcru, Guilherme. There's definitely quality there. I'd give him a few more seasons. Bolo says I refuse to call Steidten a failure because we know his hands are tied behind his back by one stingy dwarf who has his nose in every situation at West Ham. And Barry said Lopetegui needs to go now so a new manager can get players in, not let Lopetegui get more players in. Anyway, right then, I'm going to disappear. Been chatting away for 35 minutes. Thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it as always. We play Man City on Saturday, so the next episode of this video will be next Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Thank you very much for joining me. If you've been watching this later on in the day, on Monday, you're watching on Tuesday, whatever, get your comments into the comment section as well. I'll be appreciated, and I will be back to see what you're all saying in regards to the performance yesterday against Liverpool and also the situation surrounding West Ham. I should be back, all going well. I should be back later on today with the podcast for myself and Frankie, where we'll be getting his view on all things West Ham at the minute. Before you disappear, please, would you mind drop a like on the video by clicking thumbs up and subscribing to Hammers Chat? Both things are free and helps out the channel. And I shall catch you up later. Thank you very much for joining me. See you in a bit.